Hey, what's up, team? That regular guy reporting in today. So we did a lot of reloading ammunition. You can see a lot of that here. This is 30-30, 150 grain ammunition. We did a lot of that, maybe about 100 rounds today, my cousins and I. You can really see like just all the different types of ammunition here for all the different types of rifles that I have. So right here I have my semi-automatic shotgun. It's a 12 gauge. Just show you guys that it's not loaded. Right? And it just fires great, honestly. I will do a little bit of a rifle and shotgun review in a moment here, but I just wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about the ammunition. So right off the bat here, you can see all the different types of ammunition here. And right here we have the 22. And it's decent. It's good for people that are starting out and doing their target practice. It doesn't have a lot of penetrating power, but they're very cost-effective rounds. They're cheap, and as you can see here, I have a box of 500, and it's just really good for target practice. The next thing that I have up here is a 762 by 39 round, which is for the SKS. And if I remember correctly, the AK-47 was modeled after the design of the SKS, so it's actually incredibly interesting that way. The next up in the graph here, I have a 30-30, which was used for a lot of lever action rifles, and the lever action is a little interesting because the tubular magazine loads back to back. So the rounds literally load back to back like this. And when there's too much pressure applied and you have a pointed tip, it can set off one of the rounds in the tubular magazine. So you have to use round-nosed ammunition or flat-nosed ammunition. Hornady invented a round for the 30-30, which is called Levolution, and it has a nylon tip, so that when you push it against the primer of a bullet, it'll just compress itself within the bullet. So it's super fancy, and it actually ups the velocity because then you're allowed to have a pointed bullet and it's more aerodynamic, and etc., etc. Now the next thing that we have in the graph is the 257 Weatherby. 257 Weatherby Magnum. And this thing is just absolutely phenomenal. There's a lot of velocity, and there's a lot of firepower in one of these rounds. And right here, you can see my 257 Weatherby Magnum. Now this is by far my favorite rifle. I love it, and you can literally shoot 400 yards with this thing and drop maybe about 4 inches, depending on the load that you load for it, right? So, yeah, wonderful though. And I loaded about 70 rounds for it or so. I'll just show you guys that it's not loaded. Okay, just gonna set it down here. And all of the Weatherby ammunition is just right here, and I have a little bit on this side as well of the hand loads that I made for that, and also the hand loads that my cousins and I made for the 30-30. The next up here on the graph, we have 303 British. Now these are also hand loads. I use them for my Lee Enfield, which is a fantastic rifle, and I'll go through that in a moment. But you can see what, you know, in regards to size, how this goes. And then we have the 762 by 54R Russian round, which is used for the Mosin Nagant, and it is also used for the SVT-40. And I believe those are 203 grain rounds. The 303 British are 180. The 257 Weatherby Magnum is 120 grain. The 3030 is 150 grain. The SKS is 123 grain. And then the 22, I believe, is 40 grains. So I got a quick Q&A. A few people asked me questions here, and I want to give credit to my cousins for coming out and giving me a hand with doing the showcase. That was awesome, and it definitely helped me out here today. I couldn't do it without them. So here we go. So one of the questions that one of the viewers asked me was, what is grains? So grains is essentially the weight of the bullet, or and it can also be used to determine how much powder you're putting into your round. So there's two different, you can use it in different ways, right? But essentially what it is it's a way of measuring weight of the bullet and also the weight of the gunpowder that's going into the shell. So for instance here, I have 257 Weatherby Magnum round here, and this has 120 grains for the bullet. That's the weight of the bullet. It's 120 grains, right? Whereas if I move to something like the 243 Winchester, I have 100 grains, so it has less energy foot-pounds behind it, so it'll have less damage, but theoretically it should have higher velocity depending on the caliber and etc., etc. So that's what grains goes over, and if we move up to something a little bigger and we compare it, this is 203 grains in regards to weight, and then this would be 100 grains. So you can see the size difference in the bullets, and yeah, so you can really see that grains is a measurement of weight. So I'll just set those down. The larger one that you saw there was 762 by 54R. Which is for the SVT and the Mosin Nagant. If you had, the next question I have here, if you had to estimate the total amount of money of the guns, how much would it be? Well, that's a good question. Well, for the shotgun, I paid, the semi-automatic shotgun I paid, I think, closer to about $400. The 257 Weatherby Magnum with the scope, I paid about $1,200. The 243 Winchester with the scope was given to me as a gift, as my first rifle, and I believe it costs about $500 or $600. The 3030 Marlin lever action was a gift given to me, and I believe it was about $600 as well. The 22 Remington was about $200. The Lee Enfield was about $200. The SVT 40 was about $500. The Mosin Nagant was about $200. The SKS was about $200 as well. So I'll put a total in the video because I'm not going to calculate it right now. But the next question I have here: in case of emergency, which one of your guns is your go-to gun? Well, it depends on how you define emergency. I mean, if somebody breaks into my house, I probably wouldn't grab my rifles. I might resort to something else, depending on the situation. Like I do have a katana, you know, but it really depends. If it was a zombie apocalypse, what would I resort to? Well, I'd probably go with something like, something with ammunition that is incredibly common, but something that still has a lot of power behind it. So maybe my SVT 40 would be the way to go, because it is semi-automatic, ammunition is quite cheap, and it would be perfect for a zombie apocalypse. Shotgun, I don't really want to get close to anything like that, so I'll pass. My bolt actions might be a little too slow. But the SVT-40 would be doing enough damage. If I was in a sniper situation, I would take the Weatherby any day over any of my rifles because I can have, you know, less than an inch grouping at 200 yards. So I'm hitting all my targets at that point. Next question here. What is your strongest gun? Well, in terms of energy foot-pounds, I'd have to say my shotgun, because my shotgun can do devastating damage at close range, and it's phenomenal. But at far range, the Weatherby definitely comes out on top of all of my rifles in regards to velocity and energy foot-pounds, because it carries that velocity, and the trajectory is fantastic on it, and you can still punch a good hole through a propane tank. But if it's mid-sized range, it probably would be something like my Mosin Nagant or SVT-40, because they do have 203 grains for a bullet weight, and they have a lot of energy foot-pounds at the start off for about the first 100, 200 yards. But after that point, it drops off drastically. My Weatherby doesn't do that. So what types of ammunition is there for the shotgun? Well, you can get quite a few different types. You can get slugs if you want to shoot that. You can get your buckshot, your steel waterfowl, birdshot. There's a whole bunch of different kinds. There's also different lengths. 12 gauge is really what I prefer for doing my shotgun shooting. And slugs are fantastic, and they do a stupid amount of damage too. They punch holes through anything, I swear. Hopefully I answered all your questions. If I didn't, leave something in the comments. Let me know. I'll answer it as soon as I can. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and stay tuned for the next one. Stay regular, team.